Hey everyone, I'm Yat, just your average dolphin playing Musume. In this video, I want to talk about races in the stadium. The stats you need for winning stadium are pretty different from what you need to just win through the URA Finals and training. In the stadium, you're matched against people with similar stat totals to yours, so you can't just brute force stat advantage like you might do in training. What actually ends up winning races though? So right here, I had my first ever A-rank Horsegirl, Sakura Bakushin-O. When I first got her, I was so excited to use her, and so I put her into my main stadium team immediately. But then I noticed, why did she always lose despite being A-rank? Look at that SS speed. On the other hand, this is my B+ rank Maruzensky. Despite being B+ rank, she always ended up having a higher placing during stadium races. So what was the difference? Since it happened so many times, I decided to watch the race. Turns out, my Maruzensky started her last spurt way earlier than SBO. And this caused SBO to be too late to catch up to anyone in the race. My point is, there are things we can do aside from getting A rank to increase our chances of winning in stadium. A well-raised B rank will crush any badly raised A rank any day of the week. And here's how. Skills. While skill activation is random, you can choose which skills you can put on your Horsegirl. And second, stat distribution. If your stat totals are similar, then where you put your stats becomes way more important. My Maruzensky had more stamina despite having a bit less speed and knowledge. And despite my SBO's A rank, that extra speed didn't actually end up mattering in the end. And I needed to train her more efficiently and distribute stats better if I wanted to win in the stadium. While I can't guarantee you'll win all your races, I'm here to help you increase your chances. I'll be talking more on the guidelines for training later in this video, but first I want to talk about something important you have to plan for. Skills. Skills have always been a complicated topic in games, and Musume has so many skills that you might not know what to do with them. So first, I want to talk about the kinds of skills available and what they do. If you already know about skills and want to skip this portion, feel free to skip to the next portion of the video. So, first we have orange skills. These are usually speed up skills or positioning skills. While you technically could make subcategories here, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to group these up all together. They range from increasing your speed in straight lines to making sure you leave the starting gate earlier. Orange skills are the bread and butter of your Horsegirl, and activating orange skills usually ends up being the key to victory. Next, you have blue skills, also known as recovery skills. These skills recover your stamina or make you less tired during the race, and are absolutely required for any Horsegirls who are running mid or long range races. Then you have red skills, also known as debuff skills. These are very situationally used, very rare to see, as most of the time you'd rather get straight up speed skills rather than spending points on debuff skills. However, these skills are very useful for certain Horsegirls with unique skill activations. Notably Nice Nature, whose skill only activates when she's in third place, and Gold Ship, whose skill only activates when she's in the back. If you're new to training, you can ignore these though for the most part. Then you have green skills. These are situational skills. They only activate during certain weather or track conditions, so they're quite niche and not too useful. I suggest you ignore these. As a side note, there are such things as rare skills. You might notice that SSR supports tend to give upgraded versions of skills, such as the famous Arc no Maestro. These are called rare skills in Japan, but I like to call them upgrade skills because they're just upgrades from normal skills. Regardless of what you call them, these are extremely important skills and some of the best skills to have, since you get almost double the skill effect for one activation. I'll talk more about these later and which ones to look out for. Okay, now that we've talked about the kinds of skills, we need to talk about how you get them. There are 3 ways to get skills. 1. Your Horsegirl already has them. You can check the stats on your Horsegirl if she has them already. If she does, you can just spend skill points to buy it in the skill menu during training. Awakening also unlocks new skills. Next, you have event skills, and you might have noticed that during training, your support cards will randomly give you events. At the end of these events, as evidenced by the 2 or 3 part marker over here, you will receive a skill associated with the support card. These skills vary by support card, and events are completely random. I've had times where I got a skill in the first year before I even ran my first race, and I have times where they never showed up despite being at max bot. Regardless, this is still the easiest and most consistent way to get skills. I find that if you train With that support, often the chances of the event showing up are a little higher, but I can't really say for sure. If you guys know how to make it more consistent, feel free to tell me in the comments. And last, you have practice hint skills. During training, you might have noticed red exclamation marks that randomly show up when training certain Horsegirls. If you train with that Horsegirl, when the red exclamation mark is up, you will be given a random skill from a random pool of skills that can be seen on the support card skill list. Though you could also get random stats. This is the most inconsistent way of getting skills, but a lot of good skills can only be obtained through this method, so just watch out for it. Now that you know how to get skills, it's time to plan for them. You can't just stuff yourself with random skills. So I'm here to help you pick the ones you need. A typical training run will give you enough skill points for around 4 to 5 rare skills, but it could be more depending on how much you win races. So here is a list of all-purpose speed skills. Slap them onto any Horsegirl and you should be fine. These include Arcline Professor from Kita-san Black SSR, which speeds you up during corner turns. Hayate Ichimonji from Nishino Flower SSR, which speeds you up during straight lines. Then you have Whole Body Whole Spirit from Winning Ticket SSR, which you can get from the story by the way, which increases your speed during the last spurt. And then you have Ichijin no Kaze from the Tokai Teo SSR, which increases your acceleration in a straight line. All of these skills increase your speed in one way or another, and the speed increase is quite big. You also have all-purpose recovery skills such as Arc No Maestro from Super Creek SSR, which recovers stamina during corners, and Breath of Improvement from Vodka SSR, which recovers stamina during straight lines. These recovery skills are required for your mid and long range Horsegirls. As you might have noticed, most of these skills are from SSR support cards, which is why I encourage rerolling in my older video. But here are some other notable skills you might want. Concentration from Tazuna SSR, which is great for escape and lead positions, since it helps you get a head start when the race starts. Avoid Dripping Horses from Mijiro Ryan SR or multiple other support cards. I didn't make the name, Google Translate did. Very useful for lead, middle, and back position horses since it helps you overtake other horses. Basically, almost a required skill for most of your Horsegirls if they're not an escape Horsegirl. Thou shalt see the Divine Emperor's power, Symboli Rudolph's unique skill. You can only get this skill by inheriting it from Symboli Rudolph as inheritance before you select your deck. So this increases your speed when you pass 3 Horsegirls during the final spurt. And it's really useful in the stadium since speed stats will likely be similar. Very useful for mid and back range Horsegirls or back position Horsegirls. Then you have Position Sense. This is just a generally useful skill. It helps your positioning early on in the race, so you won't get screwed over by being in the wrong position. So just generally useful. If you feel like you don't have enough rare skills or you are seeing skills that you don't know about, you want to look at the position or race in brackets to determine if it fits your Horsegirl, as shown right here. Worst case scenario, check the Japanese wiki for support cards and use Google Translate. I've had to do it quite a bit, but hopefully this list will help you out so you don't have to do it too much. Since you have enough skill points for 4 to 5 rare skills, make sure to see what you can pick from the list I gave earlier. The more, the better in case you don't get the event trigger you want. If you feel like you need more skills, look for skills that are specific to the race type and position you're looking for. Alrighty, so we are done with the skills portion. And if you skip the skill portions, well, welcome to the deck building portion. Before that though, we'll talk about inheritance real quick. Inheritance, just pick 3-star inheritance Horsegirls from your friend list and your best 2 to 3-star from your own list. Try to hit double circle compatibility, but if not, it's not a big deal, just don't make it triangle. But building a deck, now that's a little more complicated. The makeup of your deck will determine your stat distribution for the stadium. I repeat, the makeup of your deck will determine your stat distribution for the stadium. You have 6 slots in your deck, and you have to balance it so that you will have important stats, while at the same time ensuring that you can clear training goals. Once again, you might be lost and confused, but don't worry, I'm here to help you with some suggested deck builds. So for short, miles, and dirt, those are generally similar in terms of distance and stamina requirements. So I'm going to suggest this composition: 3 speed, 1 power, 1 friendship, and 1 flex. By flex, I mean either a power, knowledge, or stamina support. Any stamina requirements can be addressed via power card, since power cards give a bit of stamina as well, though you might need to borrow an MLB power card to ensure you get a good enough stamina bonus. Unfortunately, some Horsegirls have mid-range training goals, even if they're short or miles focused. I'm looking at you, King Halo and Grass Wonder. If this happens to you, you might want to use a stamina card as your flex card. If you're confident enough to do it without a stamina card, go ahead and run a power card instead. A knowledge card can help with skill activation as well, which is great for Stadium, so you might want that for your short range units. Now we'll move on to the mid and long range deck composition, which I suggest should be 2 speed, 1 power, 1 stamina, 1 friendship, and 1 flex. You're going to need a lot of stamina for mid and long range races. For mid, your minimum is around 600 stamina, 700 would be ideal. For long range races, you're going to want even more than that. And a rare recovery skill, which will probably be Super Creek's Arc Maestro or something to that effect. Use your flex card as a speed card if you think you won't have stamina and power issues, but otherwise, if you're running a mid-range unit, make it a power card. If you're running a long-range unit, use a stamina card. Feel free to try out the decks, and remember one important rule for deck building. You want half of your deck for skills and the other half for stats. You do not need a full deck of SSRs to get A rank. An MLB SR will give you higher stats in training than a 0 LB SSR. So if you have enough skills from your SSRs, use the rest as MLB SRs or something to that effect so that you can get more stats during training. Okay, after all that setup, it's time for more setup. Whoa. Okay, I get it. I'll stop with the setup and go to training. Yeesh. Training is pretty heavy on RNG, but for Musume, it actually makes it pretty interesting. Since I can't tell you exactly what to do, I'm going to set some guidelines for each year, and it's up to you guys to adjust it as needed during your own training sessions. Don't worry, you might make some mistakes at first, that's normal, but you'll make better and better decisions the more you train. I generally play pretty conservatively and try not to take too many risks, and if you're new, I suggest you do the same. So let's start. The first year, you have 6 months to win your debut race, and another 6 months before the end of the year. Here are your goals and guidelines. First, level up bond gauges. Train up with as many supports as possible. See those portraits every time you train? Always pick the option with the most portraits. Every time you train with your support cards, their bond gauges go up a bit, going from blue to green to orange. Your ultimate goal here is to reach the orange gauge with all your supports. Why? Because when a bond gauge hits orange, there's a chance it will turn into a rainbow training effect, as you can see here. When you train with the rainbow effect, you effectively get double the stats you would usually get, and it stacks. NANI?! Getting rainbows and stacks is the key to getting A rank in training, so the faster you reach orange gauge with your supports, the faster you can get those rainbows going. Note that rainbow effects only occur for the main stat of that support card, so speed support cards, for example, will only have a rainbow effect for speed training. Okay, next, get your mood up. Go out or train with Tazuna to get your mood up ASAP. If you find that your RNG that turns bad and you don't have more than 2 supports to level up with, go out and raise your mood. But you definitely want to raise your mood to max before the end of the 6 months. You can raise your mood twice, with the first level giving you a 10% training bonus and the second level giving you a whopping 20% training bonus and a 10% race bonus. You want this on you at all times, even if you get hit by a random mood down event. Suck it up and go out and keep your mood up to maximize this bonus. As a side note, you might want to balance hints and training. Like I mentioned in the skills section, you might want some skills from practice hints, but these are rare. Some particularly noteworthy hints you might want to focus on or prioritize include the Tokai Teo SSR, the Kitasan Black SSR, and the Manhattan Cafe SR. Next, for event choices, unfortunately, there's no easy way to look up event choices. I use the JP Wiki at gamewith.jp, link in the description below, for an event checker to see the results. While you could pick randomly, if you're aiming for a strong stadium girl, it's important to know what you're going for. So here are my rules for choices. First, always pick the choice that will give you stats that are hard to get points for. This will usually end up being something like guts or knowledge, and maybe power or stamina to a lesser extent. Why? With rainbows, you will be able to get more than enough points to reach a decent rank. But other stats that you don't usually train are much harder to raise, so it's better to get those points for those stats from events. Next, for choices between health recovery and stats, I like to pick health recovery since another chance at rainbows and bond gauges will usually be worth way more than the stats they'll give you for that event. This part's up to you though, you can be more flexible on this choice. Okay, next guideline. At the end of the year, you can run a miles race for Hanshin JF Miles in the first half of December, or the Hopeful Sticks for mid-range in the second half of December. I suggest running one of these two depending on your Horsegirl so you can grab those extra fans if it's not already a part of your training objectives. And last, for the first year, actually this applies to all years, taking risks. For me, training above 10% is considered a risk. Failing training will cause you to lose stats and your mood to go down, which will take you more than one turn to recover. Not worth it. There are only a few instances where I think taking risks is okay. First, you get more than 3 bond gauge training in one training. Second, a rainbow stack, more than one rainbow, 100% worth it. Third, the summer training camp, which I will talk more about later. But in the end, it's up to you how much you want to risk, so just be careful though, because the consequences are quite big. For the second year, your goal is to clear training objectives, win races, and get your bond gauges to orange or prioritize rainbows. So here are some guidelines. First, keep your mood up, make sure it's at maximum all the time, and heal any ailments you'll get. Random events can also hit you with ailments, which can be identified by a blue font in brackets. The effects of these ailments vary, but could range from upping the chance of failing training to your Horsegirl not showing up for training at all. That's why, if you get hit by an ailment, head to the infirmary to cure it ASAP. Next, you want to win some optional races so that you have enough skill points to take a lot of rare skills. You could probably take one in April or May, and another optional one in November. Just check the available G1 races around the time and try to win. Next, make sure your health and mood is at max before the summer training camp in the first half of July. You want to use this training camp to raise up your non-main stats, such as knowledge, guts, stamina, power, whatever. I want to talk more about the training camp here. Every July to August, in the second and third years, you will be forced into the summer training camp. If you've been focusing on 1 to 2 stats so far, you'll notice that the training level for these has been going up, and the stat gains also go higher. The summer training camp is amazing because the level of all your training gets boosted to 5, regardless of whether or not you've trained it before. Which means this is a prime opportunity to raise up the stats you don't usually raise. Usually knowledge or something. Or take advantage of a double rainbow. Yeah, I love rainbows. The reason I told you to have max HP during this is so that you won't have to rest during the training camp. Repeat, do not rest during the training camp. Raise up your knowledge instead so you can get some health back while getting your knowledge to an acceptable level. You probably want around 300, 350 by the end of the third year. Last year, some stat minimums for your training objectives. You probably want around 500 speed for your short or miles races. You probably want around 400 speed, 300 stamina for your mid-range training objectives. As long as you follow these guidelines, you shouldn't have any issue with the second year. The third year is basically the same as the second year, but there are some other things to note. Firstly, your Horsegirl's unique skill will be upgraded by 3 levels if you reach the following milestones. You have to reach 60,000 fans by the first half of February of the third year. That's 1 level. Second, if you reach 70,000 fans by the first half of April in the third year, and the chairman's bond gauge is green, and the chairman's the lolly with the hat, by the way. And third, if you reach 120,000 fans by the first half of December in the third year, so your unique skill will go up by 3 levels. Very important, since you want your unique skill to be stronger. Next, try to race as little as possible and focus on rainbows. You can race if you don't have enough fans or you think you need a few more skill points, but generally speaking, I think it's worth more of your turns to get rainbows and get stat upgrades instead. Note that in your third year, you'll also have a summer training camp. Just treat it the same way as your second year summer training camp. Okay, last, some stat minimums for when you want to clear URA Finals, right? So you should have these stats by the end of December of the third year. For short miles, you probably want around 800 speed. For mid-range, long-range, 650 speed, 550 stamina at least. So these are absolute minimums, by the way. The higher you go, the better. And that's it. By the end, you should have enough stats to win the URA Finals, pick up all your skills, and get ready for Stadium. So your Horsegirl should look something like this. My nice nature here has pretty even stats on speed, stamina, and power. I probably could have reduced the stamina a bit to add more speed and power, but that's still okay. I have one recovery skill, Arc Maestro, and a few speed up skills, skill for overtaking, and some debuff skills as well, since I need her to be in third place to activate her unique skill and overtake other horse girls. As you can see, I have a lot of SSR support cards for my reroll, but I also borrowed an MLB Super Creek here to make sure I had enough stamina to pass training. Maybe when I train her again, I might not use the Super Creek here. Over here, I have my B+ rank Marozensky. I made sure to pump speed and power, while the stamina is just a byproduct of the power pumping. I have a bunch of speed up skills since I use her for short range races. I want to note that the power stat in particular is an important stat in Stadium, even though it's not for training, since everyone's speed totals will likely be similar, so make sure to raise it. I did recommend power cards to you in the deck comp, so you'll be able to raise it via that if you prioritize your rainbows correctly. Anyways, I know this video was long, but there was a lot to cover and I hope this was helpful to you. If this was helpful or if you have more questions, feel free to comment below. I'll try my best to help you out. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe I guess if you liked the video and want to see more of this kind of content. See ya!